Welcome to the Rural Pastor Podcast with your host, Pastor Andy Addis.
You plant the seeds in the ground, though the fields have long been brown. But Lord, when will your harvest come in? You're giving all you've got to give in the place where you've been sent. But will this labor make much difference in the end? Will no one ever know? Sometimes you feel so all alone. Like the prophet Jeremiah, you may be the one to go to the dying and the broken with a message of hope. To that church on the corner of that forgotten little town, with a room of empty pews where his love can still be found. You may never know of all the seeds you sow, but it just takes one willing soul to make him known.
Well, welcome to the fourth episode in a new season of the Rural Pastor Podcast. My name is Andy Addis. I have the privilege of being the director of rurality for the North American Mission Board. I'm a lead pastor for a rural multi-site church, and I also get to work for the Church Forward Convention of Kansas, Nebraska for the Southern Baptists. It's a wonderful life to be living at this point in time. And I have a co-host. Would you please introduce yourself to everyone today, please, Danny?
Well, good afternoon, Andy. It is so good to be with you. I am Director of Missions for Flint Hills Baptist Association, which is kind of the northeast corridor of Kansas. I serve about 50 churches of all shapes and sizes, from very rural to very urban, depending on where you live, and I get to serve them, and what a privilege it is to do that.
And Danny is such a perfect voice for this podcast because he is the guy, boots on the ground, working with churches and pastors in the contexts that we're talking about. That he's in Kansas, both urban and rural, and in dealing with the very real issues. We just finished the first kind of subset of the season, talking about low resources and vocational identity and isolation. And now I want to get to some more practical matters. Because this is August in 2024. If you're listening to this out of order, then just know that's why we're talking about this then. But everybody's going back to school. It's time to return to routine. We know this pattern every year. And so I wanted to take just a couple minutes to talk about the power of, as a church and as a pastor, making school your friend and not an obstacle. In changing the mindset of seeing the return to school as a positive, and what we can do to make school an opportunity, the return to routine, yes, but also the school itself an opportunity and not just an impediment to what we're doing in ministry. So, Danny, as you deal with guys who are in this vein, whether bivo, full-time, whatever, when school starts, what's kind of some of the thoughts that guys have as we leave summer camp behind and we're heading into the fall? What do you hear in the field from guys who are doing ministry with relation to school?
I mean, obviously, they think about the commitments of time and sporting events and all the different ancillary things that happen just in a typical school. And I think some of them think that, well, we don't have a voice into the school. And it's like, I think we're missing opportunities here, Andy, to, instead of it, I like the idea of that it's not an obstacle, it's an opportunity.
Amen.
And I think for us to think about strategically, and for churches out there, it's like, school starts and everything's and we have to adjust our schedules and different things like that. And it's like, let's find some ways for those roads to intersect a little better. And I like the idea, but I think guys look at it as there's some challenges there. I'm sure there are. I know that. But there's also opportunities.
Huge. And the way that I think I was recently at a gathering of some pastors, and they were talking about back to school, and it was so negative. It was like, oh, here's what we have to go up against. And I isolated about three different at categories of ways that we might get a little twisted with regard to schools in our when I'm talking about schools, I'm talking about the traditional government-backed schools, right? If your wife is homeschooling your kids, this is not you versus her. That's not what I'm talking about here. We're talking about traditional school as we understand it. So here's the first one. We get twisted because of facilities. Very often we're in communities now where schools won't allow churches to rent their facilities. And there's this kind of antagonism because, we pay taxes and and that causes some brokenness. In the same vein, a school may want to use a church facility for an extracurricular or something, and we won't do it unless we can have a gospel presentation in the middle of the PTA meeting. And it causes some antagonism in the middle of all that. So we fight about facilities. You already mentioned this one. We fight about the athletic schedule. Do y'all remember when they didn't used to run late practices on Wednesdays because Wednesdays was church night? Well, that's not a concern most of the time anymore.
Those days are over.
Yeah, they're gone, and so there are youth pastors who are just always up in arms. And then a third thing that I know that we get upset about, and I think to a certain degree, this is just a reality check, kind of a liberal agenda from the NEA that what the National Educators Association often focuses on is counter to what a lot of the church's mission or vision or values are. And because of these things, we can get twisted and begin to think that the school is the enemy when it is not. Just like you said, Danny, there are so many opportunities to be loving and to be Jesus in the context of what's happening in the fall when we go back to school, that even though I'm not negating any of this, facilities, athletic schedules, liberal agendas, those kind of things, very real, but it doesn't stop us from continuing to be the church and even the church in a community that is school-oriented. By the way, next week we're going to talk about defining rurality, and most rural churches are intrinsically tied to a school calendar. Right? So we can't see them as the enemy or we're going to be in trouble from the get-go. So here's the first thing. And I know you've heard about this before, so I'll just ask you to comment on it right away before I go into any detail. But one of the ways we can make school your friend and not an obstacle is if a church would just adopt a school. And when I say adopt a school, what does that mean to you?
That has so many layers to that, Andy. It could be like the church I go to, we've adopted a school here in town in Topeka, and we provide backpacks for school supplies. We've done some serve days where we've painted and spruced up their thing. When I was a pastor in Pleasant View in Derby, we had a school that we did this with, and I call it low hanging fruit. This is not hard. This has nothing. I mean, you can do stuff with these churches with teachers that have to get supplies. They all have supply lists that teachers are needing. And I think, man, what if you did some like simple things like that? When all the teachers come in for in-service, what if your church provided lunch with no strings attached? What if you're there helping, clean out stuff, or, they all need help. But I think your limitations are only limited by your creativity. I mean, you can really come up with some great ways to do this with your schools.
100%.
And they'll take it, by the way. They will take it.
Yeah. So long as you're not coming in, and we all want to share the gospel, but sometimes we need to share the gospel with our lives before we share it with our words, especially in these contexts. We need to honor the emperor, right, where we can. And so in that, when I say adopt a school, let me give you an example. One of our locations adopted a grade school that they took literally years of trying to gain trust and love, and we'll talk about some of the examples. But the end result is that it ended up in this big event every year for the last several years that they actually go in, about 300 kids, and they have a shoe company come in and measure all the kids' feet. And the kids then get to take a little card, and their names on it and their shoe sizes on it, and they get to pick whatever shoes they want. And if they want red sparkly boots, or if they want Nikes that are green and brown, or whatever they want, they get to write it on this card. Well, then we take all those cards back to the church, and we thought we were going to have a hard time. We don't have enough cards. to do this. We just say individually, as a family, you take one of these cards, go buy that specific shoe in this specific color that's described for this specific size and get it back here in 2 weeks. Man, we can't get enough shoes. We have to have people who missed out. They're now bringing mittens and hats and stuff like that to add to it. And so they literally at Christmas will have a day right before the end of the school year in which half the day is just Crosspoint Day, when they come in with these gift-wrapped shoes and sundries, and these kids get to open up and get the exact shoes that they wanted in this low-income school where the teachers told us that the number one issue, that's why we did it. We didn't just pick shoes. They said, our kids need shoes. They're wearing hand-me-downs or they got holes in them. And we've been doing this for years, and it is a blessing on every side for the kids, for the teachers, for the community, for the church. Everybody loves being a part of this. Because when you adopt a school, like you said, many layers, it can have 1,000 things that happen, but you just start caring for the kids and the teachers in that school. So the easiest way to not see somebody as an enemy is to just start loving them. Adopt a school.
And I was, Andy, to that point, is you said something really important there at the beginning, is it can't be a 1-year thing that you just do.
Yeah.
If you really want to build a relationship with them, do it over years. And what I've seen teachers or what I've seen schools do, if you go and just say, how can we serve you? They have a list.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They will tell you. I have a church in Lawrence. One of the things they did is that in the wintertime, they gathered coats.
Yeah, that's great.
Coats and they would get so much of that. And so again, it's just like, what can we do in our context with our size of our church? I got to tell you, here's the other thing. We talked about isolation in a previous podcast. You want to do something super cool is partner with another church or two.
Oh, yeah.
To piggyback and go and do something that you couldn't do by yourself, but maybe the 2 or 3 churches could, whether it's supplies, clothing, take a pick.
And when you said this earlier, to supply, especially supplies for the teachers, I found that, sometimes they do have that list. Other times they're like, no, we're okay. We just handle this. So we quit asking for permission, and we would just watch. Because here's what's going to happen this fall. There will be a week or two in which every kid in town has a cold, right? That's going to happen. It happens every fall. It comes through. When that happens, show up with at least 2 boxes of Kleenex for every classroom in that school. I guarantee you're going to win a soft spot in the heart of those teachers. Just bring them in and say, hey, our church just knows this is cold and flu season. Here's Kleenex for every room. And, oh my goodness, what a way to supply. If you know that this is testing week, bring in a whole batch of sharpened number 2 pencils, right? Just so all the kids can have this fresh pencil, or get permission to do this. But bring in, how many kids are in school? How many kids are testing? We want to provide snacks for them. We will get some of those Welch's jelly snacks so every kid can have this for the test. Oh, they love it when you help them with the testing stuff. So supply them based not just on what's in the classroom, but what's happening on the calendar. And that'll show that you're not only willing to meet needs, but you're also invested in what they're doing at that time. I think that communicates something really well.
I mean, I think back one year we did, they were doing teacher in service right before school began. We brought donuts and we went to a local bakery and got bagels and different things, and no strings attached. We didn't give them any propaganda about our church or any of that stuff. We just said, we want to serve you.
Yep.
But you know what it started doing? Because here's the other reality that we forget is some of your church members are teachers.
That's right. Might help you pick the school.
Yeah. And I mean, but they know the needs of your schools, but also they then, like, somebody comes in and they go, hey, man, it was really nice of your school or your church to come in and do whatever it is. It gives you a voice. Like, tell me more about your church. Why would they do that?
You earn that right with them when you do that.
Absolutely, 100%.
So let's talk about this. We're talking about adopting a school and various sundry of ways to do that. Supplying teachers. Here's another one. Think about staff events. When they have an in-service day on the calendar and the kids are gone, that's a great time. If you have the opportunity, not every church has the opportunity to do this. One of our favorite things to do is we knew how many teachers were in a school, and you may have a big school, but the number of teachers is minimal, right? in a school because it's just 1-2 a class. They're fending off the masses. But if you bring Chick-fil-A in the teacher's lounge that day, not usually lunch, they usually have a lunch, but you bring the breakfast sandwiches in, you bring that Lord's chicken in, and just leave it there and tell them we love you. That's a winner chicken dinner right there. Jesus chicken
will change lives.
That's right. But then I'm talking about staff events, but then there's also the regular events. And this one takes commitment, but this one changes lives. What if you could get a group of guys who could commit to Fridays throughout an entire semester of the calendar year to spend noon recess just on the playground helping out? Another set of eyes, another presence out there supporting the teachers, helping do whatever needs to happen, plus the relationships that are built. It's a great way for you to invest and keep that school from becoming the enemy and becoming an asset in the community because you're an asset to them. But the recess game, if you can help with recess, I know teachers who love that because every now and then that means that they can depend on you when they can get some stuff done they need to get done.
Well, I'll give you another one, Andy, just since we're just throwing stuff out there. Where my daughter goes, her elementary school, they do a fall festival where they have games and bounce houses and
Amen.
Face painting. And guess what? They ask for volunteers to help with all of that. They want help with all of those things. And so it's just like you don't have to create it. They've built in. They just need help.
Field days at the end of the year. Yeah, all that kind of stuff.
Yes, all that stuff. If you just find out what it is, regardless of the size of your church, you can do simple things to build relationships. And then that starts to we start to kind of lose that us and them. As that's really what's really helpful is we want to try to diffuse that us and them. And it's not an obstacle, it's an opportunity.
Say, to just piggyback on that, Luke chapter 6, verses 39 to 40, Jesus is telling a parable. He says, can a blind man lead a blind man? Will they not both fall into a pit? A disciple is not above his teacher, but everyone, when he is fully trained, will be like his teacher. And you may go, what does that have to do with what you're talking about here, Andy? The reason that we need to be invested is that we don't want to be antagonistic with the teachers of our kids because they get them longer than we get them, right? They've got more time with them, and they will be like their teachers because they're going to have the primary influence. So wouldn't it be good if we could stay close and we could actually help influence those teachers to move in a direction that is what we think healthy for those students as well? So that's why all this is important, that we're increasing that relationship. We don't ever want to become antagonistic with people that are so important in the community. If at all possible, if we can love on them in that direction, then that's what we should do. I already said this, be the gospel before you speak the gospel. In other words, find ways to love on teachers, on students, on administrations by physical and gifting ways before you try and win them with your words, because they get lots of words thrown at them from lots of different groups. And so one of the ways that I think you can do this, and this is a little different, is celebrate the school and its staff as a church. Literally have a whatever grade school week every year in the fall. So you may celebrate 3 or 4 different churches, but 3 or 4 different schools rather. But on the first Sunday of the month every fall, we're going to celebrate this church, or this, I keep saying church, this school. And as a church, we're going to pray for all the teachers, and we're going to applaud any of them who show up, and we're going to send thank you cards to all the administration. And if you celebrate those schools, then there's a natural inclination for your church to actually respect them and to think about them, but also hopefully some mutual admiration as well. Celebration of a school and its staff as a church, I think, is an untapped secret. It doesn't cost anything to lift somebody up and to pray for them and publicly let them know that they're appreciated.
Man, I think maybe we need to. I'm listening to you. I'm thinking we send out a weekly thing to our pastors. I'm going to create a list of things. These are ways you can connect with your school. This is low hanging fruit, folks. Mm-hmm. There's another one out there that my wife is a part of, and it happens. I think it's nationally. It happens in the spring. Teacher Appreciation Week, and where you just appreciate your teachers and you can do different things. And it's like, those are, again, like, well, we can't do all that. No, partner with some other churches. I mean, the common ground is you're just loving on teachers and their schools. And those teachers, they give sacrificially and they do a lot of sacrificial things. And to just be able to say, we appreciate you putting up with my kid or all the other kids or whatever, but there's just some of it's built in, Andy, that you don't even have to create, whether it's a fall festival, a sporting event, or recess, or, somebody, you go and you volunteer in the cafeteria, in service days. I mean, we care about what you do.
Right.
And we care about you. There you go.
And the mindset of most principals or administrators is that when somebody from a church or the community comes in, they're always coming in because they want something from us, right? They want the building, or they want to get access to our kids to say this, or they want to sell something. And if you came in as a church and said, hey, we're looking for a place to serve. We want to know your event. How can we help this thing take place? We've got a workforce, and we got people who want to love on you. And if you just change that mindset where you say, we're not coming to, we don't want anything. We want to know what we can give you. What is the biggest need, or where is the place that we can serve? That changes everything. And it makes a huge difference. Huge difference.
Real deal. That's real deal. I'm a big low-hanging fruit guy. I think if it's something that's easy to do, that you can do, man, why not grab a hold of that with your schools? Because it shows that there's a church in our community that really cares about us. Amen. And they're not trying to get something from us. They're trying to give us something.
One final idea. I know we've just been throwing a smattering of ideas out here, because what we want is for you to just think differently about the school and not antagonistically. But if you have a decent facility, and when I say that, let's be honest, that some of our churches aren't housed for this, but some of them are, where it can be a reward day. So what I mean is we've been the church where they had a movie that if all the kids won a reading award, they could come in and watch this cartoon movie in the fellowship hall while they ate popcorn. And the school brought the popcorn, the school brought the movie, but we housed it, and it was off-site, and so it was like going to a movie theater because it was a new place. And we just cleaned up after it. We welcomed the kids. We made sure everything was nice and clean for them, and the teachers thought, oh, this is great. And it was literally a zero-cost, high effectiveness, zero cost event where you used your facilities and just made them open. Again, that's a real twist, because instead of a church saying, hey, we want to use your facility for a concert, hey, we want to use your gym for an activity, to say, hey, we've got a fellowship hall. If you ever want to use that for a special activity, if you want to do a teacher in-service offsite here, we would love to host that and do that for you. And just to make your facilities open to them, it's another great way to do that.
I mean, think about this, Andy, along piggybacking what you just said. Most schools aren't set up with like kind of a training room in their classrooms. Mm-hmm. They're the cafeterias, they're the gyms. Most of them don't have designated spots because they use it all. And if your church has enough technology, and it doesn't have to be crazy technology, what a great idea to say, hey, are you going to do any kind of training and you want to do it off-site? You are welcome to use our building. We will provide you lunch. We'll bring coffee or whatever, and you can come and use our facilities, and we won't even charge you. You can just use our facilities, and we're here to serve you.
Yep.
And you're just knocking down walls left and right there.
Amen. And the whole purpose of this is to just change the mindset, to make the school your friend and not your obstacle. I think it's a challenge for many of us, but it's one that can be tackled fairly easily for almost no cost in this coming school year. Many blessings on you guys. It is that time of year, going back to school. May we all go back to school, learn more about who we're supposed to be and what we're supposed to do, never forgetting that we are the workers in the field, and part of that field for us is in the schools. So make them your friend. Many blessings. We hope to see you again real soon on another edition of the Rural Pastor Podcast.
Like the prophet Jeremiah, you may be the one to go to the dying and the broken with a message of hope. To that church on the corner of that forgotten little town, with a room of empty pews where his love can still be found. You may never know of all the seeds you sow, but it just takes one willing soul to make him known.
Thank you for joining us on the Rural Pastor Podcast. Special thanks to Chosen Road for our incredible theme music and to 180 Digital for their corporate sponsorship and making all the technical things possible. Rural Church Leader, we want to remind you that your work is important, that you are important, and that you are not alone. See you again soon for another edition of the Rural Pastor Podcast.